Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the most pressing stories from around the world. I'm your host, Walter. Today, we're going to start with a heartbreaking story from Sudan, where a prominent activist and journalist has been killed in the city of El Fasher. Mohamed Doda was a well-known figure in Sudanese civil society, known for his bravery and dedication to exposing human rights abuses in the war-torn region of Darfur. Through his social media accounts and interviews with international media outlets, Doda had been documenting the atrocities committed by the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, a paramilitary group that has been accused of numerous human rights violations. Doda's stories were often harrowing, detailing the struggles of ordinary people in El Fasher as they tried to survive under constant bombardment and siege. He wrote about the lack of food and water, the destruction of homes and infrastructure, and the brutal treatment of civilians by the RSF. His reporting was widely respected and admired, both within Sudan and internationally. Tragically, Doda's work did not go unnoticed by the RSF. According to reports, he had been targeted by the group, which had been searching for him in the days leading up to his death. It's believed that Doda's killing was a deliberate act of intimidation, designed to silence other activists and journalists who might be tempted to speak out against the RSF. The international community has condemned Doda's killing, with many organizations and governments calling for an investigation into his death. The incident has also highlighted the dangers faced by journalists and activists in Sudan, where freedom of speech is increasingly under threat. As we report on this story, we want to emphasize that the situation in Sudan is complex and multifaceted. There are many different perspectives and opinions, and we will strive to present a balanced view of the events unfolding in the region. For now, it's clear that Mohamed Doda's death is a devastating loss for his family, his community, and the wider world. He was a courageous and dedicated individual who gave his life to tell the stories that needed to be told. We will continue to follow this story and provide updates as more information becomes available. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're continuing our discussion of current events, and now we turn our attention to a developing story in the Caribbean. The United States military has carried out another lethal strike against alleged drug carriers in the region, marking at least the 15th such strike since early September. According to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the targeted vessel was operated by a U.S.-designated terrorist organization, although he did not specify which group was involved. The strike resulted in the deaths of 3 individuals. This latest action is part of the Trump administration's campaign to counter narcotics traffickers and has sparked significant debate about its legality and effectiveness. President Trump has justified these attacks as necessary to stem the flow of drugs into the United States, asserting that the U.S. is engaged in an armed conflict with drug cartels. However, critics, including Colombian President Gustavo Petro and UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk, have raised concerns that these strikes violate international law and may be targeting innocent civilians. The situation is complex, with multiple perspectives and no easy answers. Some argue that the U.S. must take bold action to combat the scourge of drug trafficking, which has devastating consequences for communities across America. Others contend that such actions are a violation of sovereignty and human rights, and that more nuanced approaches are needed to address the root causes of this issue. As we consider this story, it's essential to approach it with a critical and balanced mindset, acknowledging the valid concerns on all sides. The use of military force in such contexts raises fundamental questions about the limits of national security interests, the protection of human rights, and the rule of law. We will continue to monitor developments in this story and provide updates as more information becomes available. For now, it's clear that the situation in the Caribbean remains a pressing concern, with far-reaching implications for regional stability, international relations, and the ongoing struggle against drug trafficking. Welcome back to Concrete Block. As we wrap up today's show, we're taking a closer look at the latest polling numbers and what they might mean for the future of American politics. A recent NBC News poll surveyed 1,000 registered voters, and the results are certainly interesting. According to the poll, a significant number of Americans are concerned about the state of democracy and constitutional rights in the country. In fact, about a quarter of voters said that protecting democracy or constitutional rights was the single most important issue in deciding their congressional vote next year. This suggests that many people are taking a closer look at the fundamentals of our country and are worried about the potential erosion of these core values. The poll also found that voters are deeply skeptical about the ability of Palestinians and Israelis to form a lasting peace agreement, with only 21% saying they think it's possible. When it comes to U.S. involvement in the region, 41% of voters favor the use of American troops in a peacekeeping force in Gaza, while 54% disapprove. In terms of the parties themselves, the poll found that the Democratic Party's overall standing hasn't improved from record lows, with only 28% of registered voters saying they have a positive view of the party. The Republican Party has higher marks, but still, a significant number of voters view both parties negatively. It's worth noting that these polling numbers are just a snapshot in time, and opinions can shift quickly. However, they do provide some insight into the current mood of the country and the issues that are on people's minds. As we consider these findings, it's essential to remember that a healthy democracy relies on informed citizens who are engaged in the issues of the day. By staying up to date on the latest news and developments, we can all play a role in shaping the future of our country. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.